the other thing about that scene that's important is that there's a lot of ambiguity in it. Like the MPs are, they're trying to get the herb to come across. They're not happy about where they are. They understand the moral ambiguities of their situation, and that exists in a lot of your films. I mean, Do the Right Thing.
But I think that this is the reason why we want to include this film. Excuse me, include this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Is this because in doing our research together and separate, in speaking to, yesterday being Veterans Day also, these elderly black men who, in general, World War II veterans are dying like left and right. There's very few left. But speaking to the black cats, they've still not been able to get their mind around this fact that they, in a lot of the camps, were in the South. And Jim Crow was still had gripped the South. And in many of these camps in the South where the black soldiers are being trained, first of all, number one is World War II. They're being trained to kill, as they might say terminology back then, Japs and Nazis, or Jerry's, whatever you want to call. So they're being trained. This is war. We got to kill the Japanese. We got to, and not so much, but a lot of times Italy gets, people forget, Italy was in cahoots. Right. It was Axis. Axis was Germany, Japan, and Italy. And a lot of people forget that Italy, way up in the war, was fighting against the Allies. But anyway, these black soldiers are being trained to kill. They're being trained to kill Japanese. If you go to the Pacific, they're being trained to kill Italians, fascists, and Nazis if you go to Europe. And on the same base where they're being trained were housed Nazi POWs. And in the same base, the Nazi POWs had better housing, they had better food, and better health care. And all these guys, they just cannot, I mean, many of them, I bet, went to their graves not understanding that.
They can't process.
We're American citizens. We're being trained to kill these motherfuckers. But the guys who are being trained to kill have better, their barracks are better than us. They get better food. And they get better medical care. We're being trained to kill them. It's crazy. And that's racism will make you crazy. Trying to figure that shit out.
Well,
or not trying to figure it out, but trying to bring logic to it. We're being trained to kill them. Why are these motherfuckers getting better food? Why are they getting better medical? We're trained to kill them, and they're being traded. Right. I mean, we're still subhuman.
Well, the whole process of being an African American soldier during World War II was so filled with crisscross signals. Even today, one of the things that we attempted to do with this film was to sort of shove it at the mythology of the G.I. Joe soldier, the great American soldier who's,
And that's why we began it with John Wayne, who you can't get more mythic or iconic than John Wayne, whether he's in a World War II film or whether he's in a John Ford Western. So in World War II, he was kicking the Japanese and the Nazis' ass, and the John Ford film, the Westerns, he's kicking the Native Americans' ass. And that famous saying, and they made a ton of films. John Ford and John Wayne together was really just about the complete humanization of Native Americans. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until their last, they knew they fucked up, so they did this film, The Searchers, to try to make amends for all the fucked up shit they did. And not to go off on a tangent, if you look at film a little more over 100 years old, look at TV a little more over 50 years old, these mediums are used to dehumanize people. And it's sort of like a rationalization. I mean, if you call yourself Christian or God-fearing. How can you treat human beings like this? Well, easy. They're not human beings.
Right.
They're savages.
Right.
If you all go to the computer, go to the Constitution, United States of America. Forget what article it is, but slaves are listed as 3/5 is in the Constitution. This was written by the so-called founding fathers, so-called framers, who most of them owned slaves. George Washington owned slaves. Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. Thomas Jefferson was a pedophile. Sally Hemings was 14 years old when he started messing with her.
Is that right?
She was 14. That's documented. So all these so-called, the pillar of democracy, all those motherfuckers own slaves. So how they get around it? Well, they're not human beings. Same thing with, you talk about what 400 years of slavery. That's a Holocaust. But what they've done to Native Americans, even worse, I think, can be just as, they would say, equal, and I would agree. Now they're relegated to these I wouldn't even call them reservations, these concentration camps all across America. And if they're lucky, a couple, they'll give you, here, have a casino. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the highest rate of alcoholism, diabetes, whatever you want, whatever ill, Native Americans at the top.
Mm-hmm. Well, any opinions here? I did this at the New York Public Library when we were together, and I'm still getting letters about when I went into my little "What is wrong with America" rant.
But but what you said though, that's why we used the film begins with John Wayne in The Longest Day. Mm-hmm. That's there for a reason. And Hector, the last line Hector says, we're watching that, it's like he says, "We fought for this country too."
Right. Pilgrim.
Yeah, Pilgrim. Which even makes it work. So
that was your line. That was a good line.
We fought for this country too, because all this other stuff is bullshit. The first person to die for the United States of America in the war against the British Empire was a black man. This is documented. His name is Crispus Attucks. So all this stuff, is not. It didn't just start World War I or World War II. From the beginning, African Americans still being treated like second-class citizens. Still, despite that, said, "I believe in democracy, and I want to fight for this country." And one of the great things I like about your book is you show there was also some other brothers saying like fuck that.
Right.
Why are we fighting?
Right.
This is a white man's war.